This is currently one of my favourite aquariums, and it's not just because of what's living in there or how the plants have grown in. It is everything about it. The filter, the light units, where the heater sits, everything has just done so well, and I want more of them. Now, certainly the inhabitants are cool in this aquarium. It's one of my sort of favourite community aquariums that I've got. We've got gold barbs in here, we've got checker barbs in here, we've got cherry barbs in here. Who else have we got in here? Neon dwarf rainbows. We've got a small baby group of peacock gobies. Actually, to be fair, we've even got my snow white bristlenoses in here that have bred in here. And we did have a few babies, but the babies just hiding amongst the plants now and I very rarely see them. But it's just a very cool community tank that I can get lost in for hours. The plants have grown in really well. They're all low light, really easy to grow plants. We've got anubiases, we've got some African fern at the top, we've even got some small Bucephalandras at the bottom. And they have spread and grown so well in this aquarium. And it wasn't without its problems, because right at the start of this aquarium, I got the lighting quite wrong. Not quite wrong, a little bit wrong. But we had a fair amount of algae starting to grow on the plants. And it sort of led me to make this video in a roundabout way, because I liked how easy it was to get over that problem in this aquarium. And I'll get onto that in a minute. But all the plants have settled now. The algae has pretty much disappeared. There's hardly anything now. And the tank is going great. And with this aquarium doing so well, it's what spurred me on to make this video really about, like, well, I suppose a product review and an update and what's going on in there, because it has just been a real, as weird as it sounds, a joy to keep. It has been so simple. Any little hiccup has been easy to overcome, and I have absolutely loved it. So I suppose I should tell you what this aquarium is for people who haven't seen this before. Now, this is an Oase Styleline. Now, they come in 3 different sizes, so this is the biggest one that they do. They call this the 175, which is like 160 usable litres. Now, the other 2 sizes that they do in the range is a 125, which has got like 115 litres of usable water volume, and then an 85, which that one's on my short list at the moment. I'm really tempted to get one of those. It's like a little 75 litre, but it's sort of like a cube, but it's not a cube. It's still rectangular, but I don't know, I just like how it looks. It sort of sits up on its cabinet. It looks really impressive. And I think, you know, for a little nano community aquarium, or maybe, I don't know, like a breeding project for something, it's just a really sleek and nice aquarium. And then in the range, they come in 2 colours. So you get black, which obviously I've got here, and you get white as well, which I do like the white. The problem with white is that filming it can be a bit of a nightmare. It's quite bright, and yeah, camera work is always a little bit tricky with a really bright cabinet. But both of them look really nice, and they've got some cool features to them, which we will go through. So I've opened up the blinds a little bit so we can see the aquarium in a bit more detail. But the first thing that I really like about these aquariums is the lids. And that seems, I'll be honest, really insignificant when you're shopping for aquariums in an aquarium store or whatever. But actually now living with them and living with several different aquariums around the house, I realised that lids do make a fair amount of difference in the ease and the maintenance and the feeding and just generally your day-to-day aquarium life. And the cool thing with these is they are sliding glass covers. So they literally run on these metal runners that you can see front and back here. And it opens up the whole top of the aquarium for you to feed, for you to get your filters out of. And yeah, it's a really good design. It's thick glass. It holds a lot of heat and a lot of moisture in. And recently I've been working on a few aquariums, a few of my older aquariums that I've got downstairs essentially, and they've got really thin plastic lids to them. And you'll still see them being sold in the shops. And when you try and take them off, they flap around, they wobble about, they are a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. Whereas these, you can literally pick them up and away you go. You take them off, they are really thick glass, and they hold just, well, they just make life easier. And it was something that I didn't think would be that big a deal, but it really is. And then the other thing I like about the lids is the handle is only on one side, which seems a bit weird when you first think about it, but actually most of the time you are viewing your aquarium from a sat down position. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. So if you've got a handle sticking out the top of the aquarium, it sort of, I don't know, spoils the picture frame look of the aquarium, I guess you would say. And with that handle recessed down inside of this glass, well, aquarium, and then the other one not having a handle on it, it means that you get a really seamless look. And it's one of those small things that they've thought about that, again, it's a small thing, but it just makes it better. So let's take these lids out of the way, and then I can show you what I like about the aquarium inside. Right, and that one. Now, another annoying thing that I found recently with a few aquariums I am using is some companies don't leave a cutout for if you ever want to upgrade a filter. Now, with these Styleline aquariums, the glass is actually physically cut into a U shape, so that if you ever wanted to add an external filter, you can literally loop them over both the U shapes. There's one at either end. Hang on, look, there's one on that end as well. So that if you ever want to upgrade, you can literally loop the inlet and the outlet over there and run an external filter on it. I was working on an aquarium the other day for a friend, and it was a brand spanking new aquarium, and the plastic trim was literally all the way up to the top. And then you had plastic covers that sat on the top of there. So there was no way of getting an external filter on there without literally cutting the brand new aquarium plastic trim. And like, if you've just spent a few £100 on an aquarium, you don't want to be taking a hacksaw to it and cutting out loops. It's such a simple thing that means the aquarium can last for longer, and it grows with you when you grow into fish keeping. Now, the next point I want to make is accessibility. Once you've got those glass panels out of the way, you have got the whole top of the aquarium open. You are into it. Now, you have got the lighting bar in the middle, but that is easily removable too. So you've got a metal bar going through the middle. Now, I want to be careful because I will blind you all if I flip this around. So if I spin these bars around, you can see you've got this metal trim that the light bulbs clip onto. And then you've got two extra slots to clip these LED glass tubes into. So if you wanted to upgrade this to have brighter lighting, then you could literally clip another two in, or even just one in, to be fair, would probably work quite well. And away you go. But these lights are, is this gonna, super bright. Now, the LED bars on this, I think they call it the classic lighting kit from memory. I'm sure that's what I read when I unpacked this aquarium. It was a long time ago now, to be fair. But anyway, they are just on and off lighting bars, which a lot of people are moving towards this Bluetooth, Wi-Fi connectability, all of that sort of stuff. And I've got lots of different Wi-Fi and controllable lights in the house. And they are brilliant for messing around with, for ramping up, ramping down, having different lighting spectrums for different plants. But actually, with these just being on and off, it was really refreshing to step back and go, oh, it just on, and it looks good, off, oh, they've gone to bed. Rather than messing around with timing and things like that, all I done with it was I put them onto two simple Wi-Fi timers, both LED bars. And this is where the algae bit comes into this conversation. You may have heard me talk about it in other videos, but it was something that, not a light bulb moment, I suppose, but it was something that like really struck me and was like, oh my word, this is so simple. Anyway, let me go on with it. It's getting hot in the fish room. So with these LED bars, I started them off, I think, on about 8 hours each. So we had about 16 hours of lighting across the two LED bars, if that makes sense. Now, that caused the algae, because all of the plants that are in here are low light loving plants. They are all anubiases, buces, ferns, things like that. And that light was just too intense for them. Now, the great thing with that was that I just went into the Wi-Fi timer and I ramped it back, I think maybe an hour or two, left it for a week, and then it still was getting a bit of algae, so ramped it back another couple of hours. And I eventually worked out over the course of about 4 or 5 weeks, messing around with the timings, that actually this tank only needed about 4 or 5 hours of intense light. Obviously you can see with my blinds open how bright it gets in here. It's not direct sunlight, luckily, but it does light up the room. So these fish do get a bit of ambient light. But for that intense lighting period, it actually only needed to be 4 or 5 hours. And it took me a very small amount of time to work out what was going on. Now, I've actually been talking to my members on the channel about this whole lighting thing. I've done a little video on it when one of the members asked a question. And I was discussing it with them because it's quite an interesting thing. If you've got all of these different colour channels that you can mess around with and play with, a lot of casual fish keepers, one of my lights has just gone on to storm mode, which is going to be annoying. So sorry if you see flashing from that side of the room. Again, connectivity and Bluetooth and all of that. That's exactly what I didn't want to happen while I was filming. Where was I? Yeah, so chatting to the members about it. When you've got a light with Bluetooth connectivity and you've got reds and blues and greens and you can mess around with all the colour channels, where do you start? It's quite a tricky game because actually you might have to ramp them down or ramp them up, and you've also got the lighting period. So you're messing around with lighting on quite a few different axes, I suppose. Not axes, but different levels. Whereas these, I just started timing it back. And if you have got connected lighting with an app and things where you can mess around with the colour channels, I suppose my thing is set it to maybe 50 or 75%, let it settle, and then start knocking it back in timings. Because as soon as you start messing around with colours and start messing around with timings, it's just a mess, to be honest, and it can be tricky. But yeah, that's why I like the lighting on this. So simple, so easy, and the spectrum it throws out is lush. It is done just so well, and that's why pretty much I want more of these aquariums and why I'm making a video about them, because it's great. Now if you wanted to, you could obviously upgrade the lighting because this is all removable, it slides back and forth. You could add extra bars into this, or you could actually upgrade the lighting itself if you wanted to, because you've got these two glass panels, one here and one at the other end, that you could sit other lighting onto. Or you could take the lids off and just mount them to the outside and have an open top aquarium. It's totally up to you. They are really adaptable. They haven't sort of penned you into using one thing or another. Now the other thing that I do like about these aquariums is the filters. Now ignore this thing here that you can just see out of shot. I'll talk about that in a minute. That is a separate pump that I wanted to add and have a bit of a play with. But these here are Oase's internal filters. Now these are called Bio Plus Thermos. Now you can get a Bio Plus, it just doesn't have the heater built into the back. Now that there that you can see that I'm lifting up, I've unplugged it so that I can safely do it, is the heater, and that just slides down into the back of the filter and means that the water flow comes over the heater straight out into your aquarium. Now I really like that as a design. I was worried at first that maybe you wouldn't get enough water flow over it or the heat wouldn't sort of mix around the aquarium as it were, but I'm on my fourth one of these filters now in different aquariums around the house. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I've got 4 of these filters running in the house now. And I love them. They're great. The heat just gets everywhere. You can set the temperature really easily on the top of the heater there. And away you go. It's really simple. Now the other thing, I do like that they sit in the corner. So they just suction cup into the corner, out the way, and away you go. Now, excuse the noise, but I want to show this off. I haven't cleaned this in probably a week and a bit now, maybe 2 weeks. Now that is the spray bar function, so you can see that there's literally a spray bar built into the head of the filter all the way around. When you turn this blue dial round, it moves the water so that then it comes out of this front outlet. And like I say, the flow is normally faster than that, but I left it dirty so that I can show you all how I clean this filter. And again, it's one of the things that I love about these filters is how you clean them. So I've turned the filter off from the mains now, get my floating plants out the way. Now what I love about cleaning these filters, let's just move that cable up, is you can see there's 2 indents, there and there. And all you do is grab the front of it and it magnets off and pulls out, like so. Now, unlike some internal filters, when you lift the cartridge out like this, all the water rushes out of the bottom, straight back into your aquarium, and flushes a load of the waste back in. But not with these Bio Plus filters. The clever thing with these is inside each of these chambers, I'm not sure this is a good idea, yep, no, we're all right. Inside each of these chambers is, I don't know how to describe it really, a set of baffles. That means each chamber holds its water until you tip it and pour it out. So there's no worries about all the waste rushing back into your aquarium when you remove the filter. Now, as standard, these filters do just come with sponges, but you can see there is so much room in these filters to, well, adapt it if you wanted to put some biomedia in there or some ceramics or plastic media, whatever you wanted, you could fit them into those cartridges really, really simply. Like I say, you can't really see the baffles that I'm talking about, but you can see there's grills on the side here where the water comes in, and then you've got this front bit. It's a very clever design, because if I take this one off, in theory, all the water and all the waste is still caught in there. Now, I am going to have to give these a quick wash out, because look how much muck those have caught. They are really efficient, and they do well. So I just quickly gave all the sponges a wash out in old tank water to make sure they are clean and ready to go. But I just wanted to show you, has that clicked? Yep, there we go. I just wanted to show you all of that in the bottom of there was the water that I poured out of these filter cartridges, or at least some of it. Some of it ended up down the sink just a second ago. But if all of that dribbled out of this filter as I removed it, you imagine all the waste that would have just dropped back into your aquarium. And it's when you're trying to clean it. So you'd have just made your aquarium muckier for no reason. And then when you come to putting the filter back in, all you need to do is drop it down in front. Oh, yeah, these little round bits that you can see here, those are what stick it together. They're essentially magnets. Blub, blub. There we go. And you just drop it into place and click. And it magnets itself back together. There's no messing around. There's nothing to worry about. It just drops back in place, and that's it. It's as simple as that. Now there you go. That's a bit better of a representation of how fast this filter normally flows. Let's turn it onto that front outlet, actually, look. There you go. So once the filters are cleaned, yeah, I'm not going to pull that all the way out because that's going to get me wet. But once the filters are cleaned, it has got a real powerful flow to it. Obviously, like I say, I didn't clean this for a few weeks to show you guys and girls exactly how well it does at picking up waste. But I've added no medias, no different medias to it. I think I might have added a bit of mature biological media when I first set up this aquarium. Other than that, this filter has just been running as standard on sponges since day one. And, well, the aquarium talks for itself. Now, I will talk about this little thing here that, to be honest, is an addition to the aquarium. I wanted to try one out. I just wanted to have a bit of a play, if I'm totally honest, and that is a Stream Max pump. There you go. So all it is a power head that pumps water around. They are slightly adjustable. You can mess around with them on this like funny angle here, and you can get a magnet for them if you want to magnet it. I've just got it on the suction cups at the moment. They're just a nice little pump for adding extra flow. Because I've got so much rock work and so many plants in here, I didn't want there to be any sort of like stagnant areas. So having that in there, just pumping the water around with this filter, means that any waste should, in theory, be pulled up into suspension, and eventually the filter should catch it. I think I mentioned this in the previous video as well, but with these thick glass lids that go on here, they must keep a lot more heat in, because the flimsy plastic is only, what, a couple of mils thick? So that must lose so much heat. And every time I open the lid on these aquariums, it feels warm inside, you know? It like, when you open this and you get that warm rush of air, that's how it feels when I open these, whereas I don't get that with the flimsy plastic lids. The other thing that it's got is these funny little rubber dots that you can see here, squidgy things, look. And it might seem like a trivial and simple thing, but it stops the lid from hammering into the tank itself and making a noise. And that is something that happens on other aquariums. You're not paying attention, you slam the lid shut, and it makes a hell of a noise and all your fish jump. And yeah, it's such a simple little addition for this aquarium, but makes a world of difference for your daily fish keeping. And then when it comes to the cabinets on these, they do come flat packed, but it was super, super simple to build. And the nice thing with them is you get lots and lots of room. So the configuration of this cupboard is exactly the same as this one. You've got an adjustable shelf, so you can have this at whichever height you want. You can maybe see all the holes down through the sides. So you could have this really low, really high, whatever you want. And then in the back, there's a cutout. That means you can have all your pipework. If you do ever upgrade it to an external filter, the pipework can just go out the back, up to the top, and away you go. So there we go, one of my favourite aquariums currently, the Oase Styleline. And yeah, hopefully that's made sense. It feels like it's been ages since I'd done a product review sort of style video. So hopefully you find this useful. Maybe I'll start doing a few more product reviews. It's hard to find time with everything else I'm trying to squeeze in, and I've got some wicked projects coming up, so watch out for those. They are, yeah, definitely different. So yeah, I hope it's been interesting. I hope it's been useful for you. I hope you may have picked up on a little bit of knowledge somewhere along the lines. And as always, I will see you in the next one.